O OMG. OMG. I've got something for you. OMG. You've all heard about a friend of the currently biggest YouTuber on the platform, right? You've heard about the transitioning of Mr. Beast's friend, right? Duck Hypers in chat if you've heard about the transition. If you've heard about it. You must have heard about it. Right. Oh yes. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about it. Mr. Beast's friend came out as trans. And all of a sudden, a whole bunch of people came out of the woodwork and started saying how bad that would be for Mr. Beast's brand, how Mr. Beast will drop his friend, how the friend is Mr. Beast's nightmare as per this title, why Chris will be a nightmare for Mr. Beast. The best thing that came out of all of this was Mr. Beast saying, my friend is not a nightmare, but my friend. And all of this transphobia is starting to piss me off. Like, this is great because it backfired like nobody expected it to backfire. I think Vosh mentioned it on Twitter that now, basically millions of teens, possibly first exposure to trans people, will be Mr. Beast defending his friend from transphobes. And also a lot of big conservative figures started crying how they would not allow their children to watch Mr. Beast anymore because Mr. Beast is woke. So with this intro out of the way, we've gotten this context. Let's get into this 9-minute video. Let's see the arguments.
Could become a complete disaster for Mr. Beast's brand.
Mr. Beast.
It may also provide some unique benefits.
Of course. Of course. British. Why am I not surprised even at this point? When there's transphobia, there's the British accent. Conservatives are constitutionally incapable of grasping that some people just do not have a problem with trans people at all. They sincerely believe everyone is like them. That liberals just lie to themselves and each other to be polite and hide their true feelings about trans people. The conservative mindset is pure conjecture. That's why they think queer people are grooming pedophiles like them. That's why they think everyone else is secretly racist like them and hate women like them. Yeah, projection is the word. True, projection is the agenda of the day. Alright, let us watch.
So let's begin by going over the drama before
Exactly
how this will impact the Mr. Beast channel.
Mr. Beast.
In 2022, fans began to notice that Chris Tyson was changing. In the early days, he represented the quintessential southern gun and truck loving dude. Yet beginning in March 2022, Chris began to display increasingly feminine traits, making tweets such as, "I finally got my nails done at a nail tech." Additionally, Chris would highlight that his facial appearance had changed significantly since the start of the pandemic, gimmick, which accompanied another post reading, "Okay, so in 4 different customs I had to prove I was myself because I quote look nothing like my passport pic, so much that I'm considering updating my passport. Do you see any resemblance?" Prompting replies such as, "You went from man to boy." Chris responded by stating, "Nah, to be honest, I just really started taking my mental health seriously and eating better," yet his Twitter photos kept insinuating that Chris was becoming more feminine, with this same kind of look showing up in his Mr. Beast appearances. For example, on the 6th of January 2023, Beast Reacts uploaded a video titled "I strapped a GoPro to a fish," in which Chris dressed in a way that prompted comments such as, "Chris has been adopting more and more traits that remind me of my grandmother." Okay, so some people just gonna ignore
grandmother.
Chris had to have lost a bet. The look is getting wild. The response to the video then prompted
I mean, let me go back to the nails because
appearance, same kind of look with this same kind of, yet his Twitter photos kept insinuating that Chris was becoming more feminine, with this same kind of look showing up in his Mr. Beast appearances.
Yeah, I know. Like, I don't know, it's like true crime or something's happening here.
For example, on the 6th of January 2023, Beast Reacts uploaded a video titled "I strapped a GoPro to a fish," in which Chris dressed in a way that prompted comments such as, "Chris has been adopting more and more traits that remind me of my grandmother."
My
So
grandmother.
some people just gonna ignore Chris's nails? Chris had to have lost a bet. The look is getting wild.
What grandmother? Grandmother. Here's a serious question. Why is it looking like your grandmother a bad thing? I don't know. I don't know. It's just ageism. Ageism is also a thing. Okay, ageism is a thing. I don't know what's wrong with looking like your grandmother. Maybe your grandmother has great sense of style. But yeah, that is a wild video.
The response to the video then prompted countless viral TikToks, such as this one with 700,000 likes, stating, "How did Chris go from this to this?" While others even made the claim that Carl had turned him gay. Now, this was pretty ridiculous as Carl isn't even that feminine, and Chris had come out as bisexual years before he and Carl had even met. The true catalyst for Chris Tyson's feminization instead seemed to have come from his marriage. In January 2022, Chris would post a photo with his wife to his Instagram, yet after this, the family photo stopped altogether. Fans
Like, this is pretty bizarre video, pretty pathetic video. Like, this is 4.3 million views in 2 days. This is actually pretty sad. Like, this is the most insane video I've ever seen. The divided comment section, like the like to dislike ratio, the whole situation, how mad people are getting. It feels like a full war staged in this single video.
Noticed that he'd removed his wedding ring, with the ring's absence correlating perfectly with the very first post in which he'd painted his nails. Chris confirmed the split in a post from March 2023 reading, "For a little over a year now, me and Katie have been separated," with this also confirming that Chris's transformation began as soon as his marriage came to an end. Chris went from lighting campfires and raising a family with his beautiful wife to now trying to be a wife with his man buns and long nails. As the criticism continued to pile, Chris—
What is this comment? Like, he went from a manly man, making campfires, to being the wife. This is nonsense. This is just silly. Yeah, that's true, Jess. That's true. This is all very weird.
He'd be taking a break from social media, and while there was a possibility that Chris would make efforts to return to his former self, he'd rather do the opposite and double down on his feminine image, showing up to the Kids' Choice Awards looking like this, before making the announcement that he'd been doing HRT for approximately 2 months, which according to a quick Google search is the medical process for changing genders. Chris would expand on this by stating, "Informed consent HRT saved my and many others' lives. The hurdles GNC people have to jump through to get life-saving gender affirmation."
Like, okay. So weird about it. There's sunny person.
Confirming healthcare in a first world country is wild to me. Just let people make informed decisions about their own bodies.
Yeah.
Received a positive response from both Carl and Mr. Beast, who wrote, "Got you, I did one more heart than Carl because I'm a better friend." While his co-workers expressed positivity, others weren't so welcoming.
Interesting.
There goes a father figure the kid won't ever be able to look up to. Hard times create strong men create...
Oh my god. I hate this weird saying so much. Ridiculous saying. Nonsensical saying. Like, come on. Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create... This is just nonsensical babble. I'm gonna be honest.
Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. Weak man times. Chris responded to this comment by stating, "This is just more dog whistling that somehow trans and GNC folks aren't safe around kids. Tucker begs for me to come back when I leave for like 2 days to film. He is so loved and happy. Kids aren't born with hate, it's taught by people like you, and my child will only know love. I know I'm going to be a great parent, and so is every other person who puts the love of their child before everything. I made this decision because I wanted to show up as my best and happiest self for him. In a way, this was for Tucker." Chris's
Nice response.
Response received some positivity such as, "I'm convinced you're an amazing father. Tucker is lucky to have you and also lucky to have all of those who surround and support you in his life. As well as I adore that, I'm glad you made that decision. It's so much easier to be a parental figure when you're not struggling with dysphoria, yet he'd also receive an equal amount of backlash. You ripped apart your family and took a father figure away from your son just so you could paint your nails and act zesty. Pathetic. He will get torn apart at school, won't want to have friends around his house, a life full of difference and being alone."
This is such a pathetic argument. Oh, we shouldn't do things because people will get bullied over it. Like, this is the weakest argument possible. Like...
Must have missed the point in that tweet. How's this for him when you're depriving him of a father figure? Although Chris wasn't altered by these comments, as he'd once again reiterate his certainty in a new post reading, "It's never too late to start being yourself," which received praise from Mr. Beast as well as Nolan and Carl. However, these comments also added extra fuel to the fire. In a few years, back in this thread, and remember they were never your friends. Only yes men cowards. Hope you come out of this safe. Mr. Beast responded to this with a simple opinion irrelevant ratio, to which the original commenter would state, "I have 30 followers, so go ahead and ratio me. I'll still rest easy knowing that I'm not a coward who idly sits by watching my friend ruin his own life." In some ways, it was nice to see the boys standing up for Chris on Twitter. However, the situation has already begun to change the dynamic within the videos. For example, in a recent livestream titled "Opening 1,000 Mystery Art Boxes," Chris would once again dress in quite a feminine way, and while everybody participated as usual, the energy and vibe didn't feel nearly as smooth as it normally does. It felt as though there was an unaddressed elephant in the room, and therefore everybody was in their head, as opposed to being in the present moment enjoying each other's.
Nothing like a little bit of psychotherapy. Everybody's in their head, not in the moment. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Do you know what another funny thing that's happened over this was? Like, do you want to know the funny thing? Lucy Hyper, if you want to know the funny thing. Lucy Hyper, give me some Lucy Hypers. Come on, let's go. Alright. Asmongold actually reacted to this and showed more understanding than this dude by a mile. I actually saw people writing in Asmongold's comments that he's trying to be politically correct, like, because Asmongold basically said, well, yeah, of course they're gonna be nervous. It's a big change. Like, we might as well check it out. Like, it was not outright supportive, but it was far better than this video. Let me see. There's like a short. Here we go. We're gonna just see a short fragment. Like, Asmongold actually reacts to this far better than this Sunny person, you know?
An unaddressed elephant in the room, and therefore everybody was in their head as opposed to being in the present moment enjoying each other's company. Maybe everybody was simply too busy opening packages, but Chris did make these bizarre jokes about Jimmy being female, making him incredibly uncomfortable.
Oh my god, Jimmy, look, they drew you. Jimmy, they drew you so well. It looks just like you.
Oh, yes.
Oh my god, it's Jimmy.
Yeah. Fan art. This is what we were looking for.
Yeah, I think it's probably it's probably really hard for them, you know. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because like, you know, like obviously,
yeah,
like I mean, you've got to remember, like, these guys are really good friends, and his friend just went through a fucking divorce. He's going through this transition thing. His friend's getting harassed on the internet constantly. He's getting harassed constantly. They've never dealt with this level of criticism before. It's like, you know, fucking thousands of people all the time. Like, you have to look at what the relationship is between them, and like, you have to contextualize that to an extent. And I don't really know everything about it, but yeah, it probably fucked up his head, like having that many people that were like shitting on him. And then, you know, Mr. Beast, it's like, it must be really hard dealing with this, straight up. Like, I feel like it's probably really hard. Well, and it's also like a problem where they can't really probably make any jokes about it, because if they make jokes about it, then you're gonna get hit coming both ways, right? You're gonna get people that are like really liberal, that don't like you making jokes about it and don't like you goofing around about it. And then you're also gonna have people that like you doing it, and then they don't take it as a joke, and then they just keep shitting on them. So it's like, you know that you're under this like massive fucking microscope, and you can't approach something like this like a normal person would, because you're in front of an audience of so many people that they desperately don't want you to be a normal person. They want to take things out of context as much as possible. I think this is 100% like it's probably very stressful for them.
Yeah, and you know, like, this is going to be a stressful situation even at the best of circumstances, because like, it's just a gigantic change, right? Like, it's a gigantic shift, you know? So yeah, I agree. And like, his response, like Asmongold's reaction to this whole thing is like a lot better than this person's, you know?
Company. Maybe everybody was simply too busy opening packages, but Chris did make these bizarre jokes about Jimmy being female, making him incredibly uncomfortable.
Oh my god, Jimmy, look.
Thank you for the $5. Fake Kyle. Fake Alec Kyle Parker. Hey Lucy, my friend is transphobic. Not really. He's just confused on the issues and thinks your ducks are lame. Can you change his mind? Why are the ducks lame? What's wrong with ducks? How do you not like ducks? It's not only a liberal, but it's not wrong either. Yeah, I know. Like, it's true. Yeah, but because like, I think if you don't like ducks, like, you can be talked out of transphobia, but if you hate ducks, then like, you're a lost cause. Also, Kyle did mention that that person is not transphobic per se, but just confused about the issues. But yeah, takes like this are like why I think that Asmongold deserves a bit more charitability than he's usually being given, you know? I think so.
Look, they drew you. Jimmy, they drew you so well. It looks just like you.
Oh, yes.
Oh my god, it's Jimmy.
How did fan art? This is what we were looking for. Be brave, be honest, be kind, Mr. Beast. That is my tagline.
Becoming even weirder when each member started to pay each other compliments.
Hey, nice shirt. Thanks, dude. Nice shirt.
Hey, nice shirt.
Thanks, dude. Nice shirt.
Thanks. Nice shirt.
Nice shoes.
For the most part, the live stream was devoid of awkward moments. However, it would act as fodder for another 100 million views worth of drama and criticism. Chris likely believes that people will slowly adapt to his new appearance over time, but is this really going to happen? Well, maybe. It's difficult to say as the situation is fairly unique, especially when considering Chris's reputation and influence. However, if Chris continues to transition, would it be unreasonable to say that he could jeopardize some of the personality traits which made him a successful member?
Of course, I actually think that at this point, Chris should be gendered as she and her, right? The reason this is awkward is because he's freaked out by a trans person existing and someone treating them with basic decency and respect. Yeah, but I think like there's I think Asmongold is actually correct that at first a certain amount of awkwardness might happen, you know, because of how big a change it is, right? I think it just might happen, and I don't think it's wrong even, you know. Like when I talked with certain people in my life about my thing, I felt awkward, you know? And this is amplified because this is like before an audience of many millions. Okay, Chris goes by any all. Alright. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, but I do think people are really reading into this, you know?
In the first place. Perhaps the opposite will happen and he'll instead pick up new personality traits.
But I do think that a certain amount of nervousness might happen. And I don't really think that there's anything bad with it, you know? Does that make sense? Like, I think it's fairly normal for people to be a bit nervous when entering a very new situation
that better resonate with the current MrBeast audience. This was put forward in many comments supportive of Chris, who implied that there'll be millions of queer kids who look up to him, although this doesn't necessarily mean that it'll add any value to the videos. MrBeast has likely cultivated a massive LGBT audience, all of whom are already watching anyway, and if we've learned anything from Hollywood in recent years, it's that adding over-the-top LGBT characters for the sake of relatability rarely works as intended, and is often nothing more than a distraction from the premise of the movie or video.
Yeah, but MrBeast's friend is not just a character. It's just MrBeast's friend.
On top of this, it can be uncomfortable and unrelatable for the silent majority, although as we have seen, a situation—
Silent majority, huh? Silent, okay. I think it's pretty clear where this person's politics are. This single line about the silent majority tells me everything that I need to know about this person's politics. Like, come on. The silent majority. Are we going with this bullshit? Okay.
Like Chris's
Alright.
potential to create an otherworldly amount of discussion, which could be seen as a benefit for the MrBeast brand.
Drama is good for growth, 100%. That would be an easy way to up my
So
views
you're
if
a
I got
Keemstar
it.
The problem is this type of situation is probably the last thing that MrBeast wants to attract, as he's forced to agree with Chris.
Also, not everything in life is about the brand. Like, I'm really surprised I even have to say this. Not everything we do is tailored towards the brand. Right? Is that a wild thing to say? We're not talking brand pieces 24/7. The silent majority is the same shit I was talking about before. Conservatives think everyone is as backwards and hateful as them, and that they just pretend in public to be polite. Yeah, actually, the thing you've said before, this is exactly why I said that the line about the silent majority tells us everything we need to know about this person's politics. You know? Like, honestly, like, all I need to know, I wouldn't even need to watch any other parts of the video. The only line that is necessary to understand where this person is at is to hear this bit about the silent majority. Like, that's basically it.
As he has no way of manipulating the situation without being painted as the bad guy. It's a lose-lose situation for Mr. Beast. I think Jimmy is in an inescapable situation. If he kicks out Chris, cancelled. If he don't, his channel will die for real. An inescapable situation is a pretty good way of describing.
Oh yeah,
which is
Mr.
Why it deserves the harsh label of being a nightmare. Jimmy has no option but to publicly.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, Mr. Beast's transition will end Mr. Beast's channel. This is really demented logic. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's because of... If Mr. Beast is going to fall, it's because of the transes, don't you know?
Express acceptance of Chris's transition, as silence or even worse, disapproval would come with obvious severe repercussions. However,
why
Chris's transition,
why would he disapprove of his friend's transition?
Jimmy implies that this will be the new normal within the content, thus annoying a different group of people, many of whom will never express their true feelings and may rather simply click on fewer Mr. Beast videos. If this is the case, Jimmy has no option but to accept this fate, as removing Chris from the videos in any kind of way could create an even more severe media firestorm. The only clean solution, should things go south, might be for Chris to resign himself, and even then rumors and bad press will be unavoidable. Whether it be arrogance or ignorance.
This is a really sad video, and I'm really happy with Mr. Beast's response to this. This person is a hyena, and I don't mean the nice type. A vulture.
Chris seems oblivious to how this whole thing might impact Jimmy, forgetting that he achieved his current level of success by avoiding this exact type of drama.
What? Like, what sort of videos does this person make? Yeah. Yeah. We know what sort of person this is. Unsurprisingly British. If you like this, then subscribe, hit the bell, consider becoming a Patreon, consider, well, you know, doing all the good stuff, right? This was a pretty sad video, but you know, sadly it happens. Little Joel. Okay, we're gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch your response.
Hey everybody, so long-time fans of this channel will know that every so often I like to talk about the YouTuber SunnyV2. I think he makes a lot of pretty bad videos.
Yeah.
I like to talk about them sometimes.
I've noticed.
Though, he made a video that is so nakedly and horribly transphobic about Mr. Beast's friend and employee, Chris, who recently transitioned, that Mr. Beast himself literally responded to it. Truly an embarrassing moment, and I kind of see it as an opportunity to talk about how devastatingly embarrassing this video is. So here's the thing about SunnyV2 as a YouTuber. He is always trying to go for plausible deniability. SunnyV2 will never simply say, I think it's bad that Ninja talks about racism. No, he'll launder that opinion through audiences. The audiences are upset about Ninja talking about racism, and me, I'm just a documenter.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't have stake in the game of Ninja talking about racism. I'm just reporting on the news. This is obviously the case with Chris, Mr. Beast's employee and friend. He's not going to come out and say, I think it's bad when people transition. No, he'll just search the internet for the most heinous, disgusting comments about the transition and report that information as though he doesn't have stake in the game.
Chris went from lighting campfires and raising a family with his beautiful wife to now trying to...
Yeah, exactly. It's like... I've said this as well. He went from this manly man to trying to be the wife.
wife
like,
with
come
his man
on.
buns and long nails. There goes a father figure the kid won't ever be able to look up to. Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. Weak man times.
I mean, if this person tries to give himself the plausible deniability and he sort of failed, he gave the game away when he decided to mention the silent majority TM. The video gets worse.
It is, by default, an extremely cowardly and embarrassing way to make videos, but in the case of this new video, it's like way worse. So right at the end of the video, SunnyV2 says this about Mr. Beast's situation vis-a-vis his trans friend.
And if we've learned anything from Hollywood in recent years, it's that adding over-the-top LGBT characters for the sake of relatability rarely works as intended, and is often nothing more than a distraction from the premise of the movie or video. I think Jimmy is in an inescapable situation. If he kicks out Chris...
Mr. Beast's friend is not a character. Like, this is so ridiculous. She's just silly. Ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Cancelled. If he don't, his channel will die for real. An inescapable situation is a pretty good way of describing the drama, which is also why it deserves the harsh label of being a nightmare. Jimmy has no option but to publicly express acceptance of Chris's transition, as silence or even worse, disapproval would come with obvious severe repercussions.
He's not saying anything in particular about what Chris should do or about whether or not Mr. Beast should fire them. No, all he's saying is that Chris, the human being, is a liability to the brand, and that maybe they might need to be snipped off. Maybe Mr. Beast is in a difficult predicament and might desperately want to fire his trans friend Chris, but can't do that because he'd be cancelled. I honestly think that if SunnyV2 had just come out and said, I don't like trans people, it would be better than this. It's a nakedly robotic way of understanding human relationships.
True.
Friend who's trans must always be accounted against some made-up balance sheet that's going to cause your trans friend to make your business less profitable. SunnyV2 wants to have authority in these conversations. He wants to be seen as an apolitical actor, and the result of this apolitics is a guy who just...
This is why I say that centrists are basically just cowardly right-wingers.
As robotic, a strange, disgusting content machine who is fundamentally incapable of understanding why people might care about each other. It's a
True.
Video, and I'm kind of glad that everyone's on the SunnyV2 hate train now. He runs a bad YouTube channel.
True.